All right, it's a little bit after 1, so we'll go ahead and get started. That way we probably have some time at the end for questions. Thanks everybody for coming to what we're calling Thesis Academy. This is session number 1. Are you ready to graduate? Obviously, since you guys are here today or visiting us with us online, the answer to that question is yes, which is great. Can I get a quick show of hands? How many of you are planning on graduating this semester? Okay, and are the rest of you shooting for spring then? Okay, so we got a good mixture of fall and spring, which is great. So what my goal here is today is to help you navigate the process that gets you from I'm ready to graduate to walking across that stage with your thesis or dissertation. Hopefully we're here, well, not hopefully, we are here to help you through this process. And I'm going to introduce a lot of the forms, some of which you probably have already filled out because lots of you are already in the pipeline. And kind of give you an idea of when our deadlines are, with the idea of letting you know kind of what the process is so that you kind of have a framework for it. And then obviously I'm here to answer any questions as we go. We have Dawn Ramirez with us today. She's going to be here if you guys have any questions about processing and degrees. And then I can handle any questions that have to do with the actual thesis or dissertation themselves. So as I go through today, you can hold your questions for the end if you want to talk to one of us specifically. If you want to throw your hand up in the middle and ask a question, I'm happy to answer questions in between. The goal here is for you guys to be comfortable with the system and then get your questions answered so you kind of know where you're at, especially for those of you that are looking at doing this process here in the next couple of months. So does that sound good with everybody? Okay. I'm going to start here. Most of the stuff, I figured I want to put together a slide deck today and realize that most of the stuff we have on here is on the website with links. So I thought rather than show you a static slide with names and forms, because there's a lot of them, what I'm going to do is kind of show you where they live and then kind of how to access them, and then you can ask any questions from there. So this is my page here. Before I go too far, sorry, my name is Wayne Cochran. I am the Graduate Student Success Coordinator here in the Graduate College. My office handles, again, all of the theses and dissertations that come through. So we'll handle all the forms. We make sure all your defenses happen properly. All your documents are reviewed by my office and signed off on as far as formatting and template, all that good stuff. So it's my office and my face that you'll deal with, especially for those of you who are looking to do this process the next couple of weeks. We're going to get to know each other fairly well over the next 6 weeks, I think. So I start here with the Graduate Student Success Center page. And there's this handy-dandy link here. These are all kind of lined out kind of by category. And today, obviously, we're focusing on thesis and dissertation information. And I'm going to scroll down here. And we'll go through a couple of these squares, but for the most part, everything you'll need is right here. Now, obviously, there's some guidance from my office, from me. If you have questions, I'm obviously here. By no means do you need to necessarily pick everything off of the website. But this is our Candy Cup repository for everything hopefully you might need in this grand scheme of things, according to deadline dates, documents that come in, how to submit your document when the time comes, defense, formatting, and I'm going to go through these all, but I'm just kind of showing you guys how we kind of have these lined out as far as how the process comes together. And I'm going to kind of use deadline dates as kind of a framework, just because that's the easy way to that's how my linear mind works. As far as how to take things from A to B. Obviously, there are a few of you here in this room that are really invested in that process. The first two forms that come in before we do anything or talk about that last semester, which hopefully most of you have probably already done since your fall or spring, is we have to form a committee. Is there anyone here in this room who does not have a supervisory committee or a form submitted? Good, that is good. Next form, once that is completed, is called our application for admission to candidacy, which for those of you who are looking at fall graduation should already be completed as well. For your fall graduates, have any of you not done your AAC yet? Okay, good start as well. All right, these two documents obviously are important to you. The committee form is what signifies to the graduate college who's on your committee. It tells us that you have a committee that will work, that your chair is able to chair, that your faculty are approved graduate faculty, and make sure there are no kinks in the system when we get to the point where you're defending your work in front of your faculty. The admission to candidacy form tells us that you've completed all your other requirements. Without that, obviously, you can complete a thesis and dissertation, but if you don't complete the required coursework that goes with it, the two halves cannot marry up. So the candidacy form tells the graduate college you have completed all of the requirements for a degree from that side. The form, when it comes in, also triggered us to check that. If there's an issue with that, we're going to catch that, or we're going to let you know, no, this is not appropriate, or you're missing, and we'll fill in those holes, which is why those are due fairly early. I wrote down here. There it is. For the fall documents, that form was due in April. For those of you who are looking at spring, that date is coming up pretty rapidly. It's Monday, November 6th. I wrote that down. So you give an idea that comes in, obviously, the semester before. The committee form should have been done fairly earlier than that, because you're going to want to have that in place when you start your research. So keep that in mind. That's probably the earliest thing that forms, and you'll work mostly with your department to figure out, obviously, who you're working with on your major advisor, who you might want to be on your committee. We can certainly answer questions about eligibility for faculty, how committees are composed, and what your requirements are for each department. And we have people on staff here who can help you with those questions as well. I'm guessing most of you have a lot of that figured out. I will say, though, if there's a change in that, like say if you have a faculty member leave the university, or you need to change your committee for any form, then obviously as soon as that you need to get that in and talk to us as soon as that happens, so we can adjust and make any needed changes or guide you on how to fill out that form. So make sure everything is in place when you get to the time to do graduation. Are there any questions on that? Okay. So we'll have Don with us for a little while. We'll have one of our processors with us a little bit later. Toward the end, I have a slide that shows you kind of who the processors are for each department. Each department has its own processor. If there are questions that come up with as far as candidacy, supervisory committee, or graduation, you can certainly ask those questions. You can ask them of me and I can direct them, or I'll give you the contact information for your specific processor, so you can get that right from the person who's going to be looking at your forms as they come in. So then we get to the part of the program that you're going to work mostly with me and my office through. And that will get you from, I'm ready to graduate this semester. And that means I have to apply for graduation. That means I have to defend my thesis or dissertation. And then you need to submit that to the graduate college for review. And there are some definite pieces that go through each one of those little hoops to jump through. And hopefully today, after I've walked you through them, hopefully they don't seem as scary. Because there are requirements, but hopefully we've spaced them out and we'll give you enough information to know that they are designed to support you with information along the way, and they aren't necessarily just hoops to jump through. The first thing you have to do in order to be able to defend in a semester, there are two criteria that really come to mind that we look for beyond the forms, the candidacy form, the supervisory committee. To be able to defend and graduate, you have to be enrolled in at least one credit of thesis or dissertation. That's 593 or 693. So that's a requirement. You're not allowed to defend if you're not enrolled in one of those two classes. Most students who are at that point have the requisite number of credits to be able to take just one. If that's not you, if you need more than one, that is acceptable as well. Work closely with your advisor and with your department to make sure that you fall within the parameters, but you have to be involved in at least one to qualify. And the second thing is you have to apply to graduate. So you have to fill out your graduation application. For those of you that are defending this or this fall, did you guys all do that? Okay. The deadline for that was Friday, August 25th, which was obviously a little bit ago. If you've missed that deadline, you can apply to graduate. It's going to cost you a little more money, so you do want to try to hit that deadline if you can, especially for my spring folks. That's usually within the first week of the semester. So if you know you're going to graduate or you want to shoot for that semester, apply for graduation early. Otherwise, you'll pay the late fee. Which if you need to do, you need to do. But I obviously try to avoid students to apply as early as possible to avoid the extra fee. So once you've applied for graduation, there's a little bit, oh yeah, go ahead, raise your question. Yeah.
So the application for admission candidacy for master's students can be submitted when at least half the credits is completed. for doctoral students, it's at least half credit plus you have completed, your, comprehensive exam.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can repeat that with the microphone just so for a master's student, you can fill out the AAC form when you've completed at least half of your credits. And for the doctoral students, it's half plus you have to pass your comp exam. And that's point. So you don't necessarily have to wait until you've completed all of them, but you have to be either at the halfway point or completed your comp exam to do so. All right, good questions. All right, so now we're going to talk about what we need to do to be able to get ready to defend. There's a couple of things that go into the graduate defense before you actually get to be in front of your committee and get pass judgment on. The first thing you need to do to graduate, you're going to work with your department one to make sure that you're ready. You have the sign off on from your faculty as well. Most faculty will know when you're ready. You can pick out a date and time that works for you, that works for the committee. Obviously, there's a lot of give and take in that scheduling to get that involved. And we ask that the student does that with their faculty and the committee. Once you've identified a date that works for all of you, you're going to let the graduate college know. And you're going to do that using the graduate defense notification form, which is right here. I'll show you, there's a form list as well, but I'm going to click on the link here. It's a handy dandy electronic form. There's a few pages to it. It basically is going to identify who you are. The student can submit this. Some departments have administrators that submit these. That's okay as well. Sometimes the faculty will do it. Ideally, if that's going to happen, make sure you coordinate that. It's not very fun to get multiple defense notifications. So make sure if you're going to do that, coordinate on who has that responsibility. That way we also know, it'll tell us who submitted the form so we can reach out if there's an issue with it. But those options are all there. You're going to tell us who you are. Obviously, we need your name, your ID number, your email address. And then as you can see on this first page here, it's going to prompt you anticipated graduation date. It's going to ask you if your thesis or dissertation, because there are a little bit of differences, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And then it's going to remind you again, have you submitted a supervisory committee form, and have you applied to graduate? So there's your first little caveat there to let you know, hey, did you do these two steps? If you haven't, if you get to that point on the form and you have not completed those steps, you're going to have to go back and do those before you can submit that form. Because if that form comes in with those checked no, it'll be an immediate email from me that says, hey, you have not completed the requirements, and I'll push you back to whatever step that you're on. So make sure you can answer yes to both of those questions. Yeah.
Just to be totally clear, that graduation application is the application for this.
No, they're separate forms.
Okay.
No, the candidacy form comes into the graduate college for us to check and make sure you completed the coursework. The application to graduate goes to the registrar's office and notifies the registrar and then in turn the graduate college that you are officially ready to graduate and want to graduate. That form goes to the registrar though, not to us. So they are separate forms. So if you've answered yes to both of those questions, you can move on to page 2, which they probably won't let me move to page 2 without filling in those, will it, Don? You got to fill them in, yeah. Page 2 is where you're going to give us date, time. No, just a second, I'll get date, time, room, and abstract, title of your defense, all of the necessary pieces we'd need to be able to do the next step, which I'll get to. So, is there a question from the chat? No, not the candidacy form, but you will have to submit a new supervisory committee form because that composition has changed. All right. So once you've filled out this form and it's come in, I'm going to tell you it serves two major purposes for my office. One, obviously, it tells us that, well, I guess three. It tells us you're ready to graduate, puts you officially on our radar as, yes, this student wants to graduate this particular semester. Two, it forces or it cues us to go back and double check your paperwork. And we'll go back and we'll check and make sure that your committee is correct, that your AAC is in, that everyone is who they say they are, everyone is participating in the manner they say they were going to. And if we find an issue, we will let the student know. This form needs to come in 2 weeks prior to your defense date. So keep that in mind. Whatever date you pick out on the calendar, we need this form 2 weeks prior. It allows us to double check, and then also the reason we needed that early is because we also publicize all your defenses. In order for your defense to be valid here at Boise State, there has to be a public component to it. And that's up to the department as to how long that is, how that's managed, but it has to be publicized. The public has to have the opportunity to be present, whether that's in person or on Zoom. And we publicize that on our calendar. All of our defenses go up on the graduate calendar and are listed as such, have all the correct information, all the correct online information. So we do our very best to work with your departments to publicize and put out defenses so that people can, one, be aware of where they are, and then also attend them. I know your departments do a pretty good job of advertising those as well, but the official notice has to come from us. So even though your department is going to be publicizing and sending out emails about defense dates and times, that's all great, but the defense notification and the notification from the graduate college is the official publication of, hey, there's a public defense today, please attend. So keep that in mind as you fill out those forms. It's also why it's very important to double check that information and make sure we have forms that have all the correct information. Now, if there's a form that's missing in information, I had a form come across my desk yesterday that was missing one of the faculty, or was missing one of the representatives on it. So I had to email the department to say, hey, this is missing. Can you provide this information? I can do that if it comes in early enough and I can catch most things, but there are times where students will submit incomplete information and we have to tell them that won't work in this time frame and here's why. We'll give you an instance of what's wrong with the form and what needs to be done. Ideally with this presentation, hopefully that'll happen less and less because you guys will be able to log in or watch the recording or come to these sessions to say, hey, what's my process? So we'll address some of those holes, but keep in mind to make sure that everything that's on that form is necessary and needs to come in. So once you've submitted that, so I have a couple, I guess first, do I have any doctoral students in the room? Okay, perfect. So for the master's students, once you have that notification in, unless you've gotten a notice from the graduate college that says there are issues, you can proceed to your defense as planned. And we'll get to the forms that you're going to need to bring to the defense here in just a second. For the doctoral students, once I receive that notification, you also have an added step because you have what's called a graduate faculty representative or a GFR. You should have identified that GFR on your supervisory committee form. For my two doctoral students, you guys both know who that is? Okay, perfect. Same goes with the change in supervisory committee. If your GFR changes, which happens from time to time as people become available or not available, depending on circumstance, we ask you to submit a new supervisory committee form to note that change so that we have that, so the form is all complete and we have the correct GFR at the bottom. And it's important to do that because when I get the form for a doctoral student, I'm going to send out, that triggers me to send out the paperwork that I need to send to the GFR because the GFR will then referee your defense. So they get the defense committee approval. They get a little checklist that says which department you're in, what kind of procedures they have. They get a script that they follow in order for them to administer the public portion of the defense and then also to administer the private portion. They'll sit in on the private portion with your committee. They don't vote or put their finger on the scale in any way, but they're there to referee to make sure that everything goes according to policy for the graduate college. And then in turn, they bring the forms to us afterward. So for your doctoral students, you don't have to worry about bringing paperwork to your defense. That's all going to be handled by the graduate college and your GFR. For your master's students, I think we're at the point. Well, let me change over to I'm going to go now. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we're at the point where I need to show you. this giant button that is your giant friend here that's called Find Forms. And you'll notice as we go through here, there's your links for your candidacy form as well, your committee form if you need to submit a new one. There's a lot of other forms on here, obviously, as well and they're all listed out kind of for reason, as you can see alphabetically. So I'll scroll down to the ones that say thesis and dissertation. There's your defense notification as well. For you master's students now that you've got your notification in and it's been approved and you're ready to proceed, you're going to want to bring this form to your defense. And it's a handy dandy little form. It is fillable, so you can fill it all in, type in it neatly. Student name, student ID, program, the date of your defense, the title. And it's important that that title matches the title that comes in on your document. So make sure you get that those match. And then this is the document that your committee is going to sign after your defense to signify that you've passed, if you should do so. The chair, obviously those are lined out by kind of who signs where. We do allow for proxy signatures if you do have a member that is not on site. We can handle those. Preference would be to get all the signatures on one page because it's cleaner. But if you have a member who cannot sign or needs somebody to sign via proxy, we have a system for that. And you can just let me know. I can tell you what that'll be if you just let me know you need that. We've had to implement that during the pandemic, and we try to get all the signatures at once, but we do have those in place. But I'll stress that though, for the master's students, it is your responsibility to bring this form to your defense. It is also your responsibility to bring it back to the graduate college when your defense is over. Because unless I receive this form, I'm not going to proceed. You may turn in your document. I can't proceed with your document until I get confirmation from your committee that you've actually passed your defense. So that is one of the first things I will look for once your document comes in is, does the student have all their forms in? And that is obviously one of the key ones, just to make sure that you've actually passed your defense and we have all the appropriate signatures. So it will slow things down if it does not come in on time. The next document that comes in with your document, we call the access agreement. I don't know if this is going to take me to Engage, I think, but it's called an access agreement for thesis or dissertation. There we go. It'll probably make me log in. No. As you can see, I've kind of started a form there, but it'll take you to Engage. This is where you're going to tell us a little bit more about your document. All of our documents are housed electronically in a couple of places. We use ProQuest ETD to review documents, to house all of our processes, and then they are published to ProQuest. The official repository for Boise State is in ScholarWorks. So there, after we run the papers through ProQuest, everything is in place. Eventually, they will end up on ScholarWorks, which again is the official repository for Boise State. The access agreement serves for you to tell us the important information about your document. Not only name and title, but keywords that you want to be searchable by, because keep in mind, all of our documents that are housed electronically, unless they're embargoed for a period of time, are available for anybody to download and research. And we have, I think I looked at the Digital Commons page today. I think we have over like 13,000 downloads. So our documents are regularly downloaded around the world. So keep in mind, yeah. So you want to make sure that's searchable, obviously. If you think you're obviously going to be proud of your work, it's going to be a specialized version of whatever you're working on. You want to make sure that you tell us what keywords to key into the repository so that if someone searches for that in our repository, they get your document. It also allows your faculty to sign off and allows us permission to house them electronically. So again, if I don't have an access agreement that's been signed off on by you and by your faculty member, your chair, and it's all done electronically, so it'll kick from you to the faculty member to my office. But this document has to come in as well before your document can be reviewed. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. We've tried to make the form as nice as possible. I don't know how many of you have had dealings with Engage. It can be tricky. Eventually that form may move to a different platform, but for now that's where it houses, and we'll do our best obviously to keep it electronic and make sure that it's easy to access and use. Again, if I get to that point and I get that form and I need a reminder, I have ways to send out reminders. But I would ask students, the more information and the better we can do to get that stuff in the first time. Again, saves time on the back end. So that you know you're in the queue and your document is where it needs to be in place, and we're not trying to hunt down a signature or a form. The other thing that comes in here, this will go, it's another fillable form. Your thesis and dissertation formatting requirements. Basically, this is your checklist. I'll scroll down to the next page here. There's your title. This is your checklist to tell my office that you checked all of those things that we're supposed to check for formatting. That you checked the front matter, that the title page matches, you have the right approval page, all of your column or your chapters are in the correct order with the correct number, your page numbers are in the correct spots, your margins are correct on the top and the bottom and the sides for printing. You've got all your paragraphs and table captions and figure captions in the right spot. Because we catch some of those things as they go through and get reviewed, but we have a lot of documents that come through my office, so we do not have the time to go through line by line, page by page, and fix a lot of these issues. So we use the checklist here so that we know that you've gone back and you're acknowledging to us that, yes, I went back to the best of my ability and took care of all of those issues. Now, if we find a rogue one, I mean, we'll do our best. I mean, we'll fix it. We're not going to let documents not going to leave here looking in bad shape. I promise it's not. One, because that reflects poorly on the university as well. But we want to make sure that students know it is their responsibility to make sure it arrives at my office in the best form it can be. And that checklist helps you do that because it gives you all the categories to look for, all the little things to make sure that you've went in and checked. And by checking that box, you signify to me that you did make that effort. And it's much appreciated from someone who reads all the documents and as they come through. So those are the three forms that come in after your defense. Typically what will happen with the defense, you'll hopefully pass. Hopefully I don't get the form that says the student did not pass their defense, because that is never a good thing. But once that form comes in, generally your committee will probably ask you to make some changes to your document. There are a few that don't, but most committees will ask you to make minor changes here or there. You're going to incorporate those changes before you submit to my office. And then you'll be ready to submit that document with those forms. I'm going to go back to my where'd I go? This one. So while I navigate to kind of the next, are there any questions on that before I navigate and I hit you with some really heavy stuff? That's summer. All right. So the next thing we have to talk about is deadlines. So that's the nuts and bolts of how it works. And now I have to hit you with the reality that those dates are very fast approaching for the fall semester and spring, really. In order to be able to process a lot of the documents that come in or the volume that we receive, the deadline day for turning in a thesis or dissertation is a lot earlier in their semester than a lot of students realize. We'd try to do a good job of letting students know when that deadline is coming up. But as you can see, the deadline here for a fall document is coming up here in early November. It's November 3rd, which is not that far away, to be honest. So to back up with that, to give you time to do the document, obviously, we recommend that you get all your defenses done by Friday, October 20th. Now, we have some wiggle room on that date. I mean, I wouldn't recommend pushing it too much beyond that. But if a student emails me and say, can I defend on the 22nd or 23rd? It's probably going to be okay. That'll also be up to your committee. What the key thing will be there, though, is if you pass your defense and you have changes, the document must come to me by November 3rd. So I tell students that all the time. I recommend you try to hit the 20th or somewhere around that. If you choose to push it, just remember there's no leeway on the date on the 3rd. And I'll explain in just a minute what happens if we miss that date. But the document with the changes in it, so what you'll get your faculty to sign off on, will come in. Those three forms I showed you will come in. And those will all come in via ProQuest ETD. And I will show you. Should have planned for some jokes for this being slow, but. On the button, maybe. Submission information. So this will be your best friend. When you get to that point, you've passed your defense, you're ready to move your thesis or dissertation to the graduate college, and you're ready. This is going to be your one-stop shop for all that you do here. And it takes you through step by step. When it's time to upload initially, go to this site, follow it 1 through 7. It'll tell you how to log into the ProQuest website. It'll ask you to pick your publishing option. It'll ask you if you need an embargo. It'll ask you to agree to the whole publishing agreement. You'll fill out all your contact name and address. You'll fill out, all of the things that we need, a lot of stuff that goes on those other forms as well. And then you'll attach your document as well. Once you've hit the button to upload to ProQuest ETD, I get a wonderful email that says student A has submitted document title. That is my clue to know that your document is in. I will go then and double check to make sure your forms are in. And then that will secure your place in the queue. We do documents as they come in. So obviously the earlier on deadline day or before, the better. If you can hit it before deadline day, it's always appreciated. Just know that I will, once those comes in, I'll click it over to date submitted and I do them in the order they came in. And I don't vary from that because I want to reward students, especially those that are early. And it's also, I think, the best way to just organize them and just take them as they come. Are there any questions on that process? Yeah.
I'll put on the deadline.
Mhm.
But I just want to make sure, I have a committee that's kind of
Mhm.
trying to put things back. So the November 3rd deadline is a requirement
It is.
for it to be turned in, and if it's turned in after that, will it not be accepted at all, or at the very least, you're not guaranteed to.
Correct. So what'll happen? Well, let's dive into that. That was my next go around here. If you miss that deadline, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't graduate. It does, however, present a very large challenge because all the documents that come in on the 3rd or before are guaranteed to get eyeballs, to get review from the graduate college. Because you submitted all your forms on time, you hit the hard deadline. So those are documents that the graduate college will look at for review. Any document that comes in after that deadline ends up on our wait list. I do endeavor to get to as many of those waitlisted documents as possible. This is, I think, the 5th or 6th semester we've done a wait list, and I can usually get to 1 or 2. Obviously, that depends on volume and how many I have of on-time documents. But if you're in that position and you're on that wait list and we get to the end of the semester and I've completed all the documents that I'm able to complete, that will push you to the next semester. For sure. And we try to work with students as much as possible, but that's just the reality of the situation with the volume that we have and the amount of documents that come in. Yeah. We have to draw the line somewhere. And yeah. So yes, if you have if you have a committee member that's pushing back on that, especially if you have one that tells them that deadline is not hard, or it's not, that there is some flexibility in that, you can tell them that it is not. And if they need further information from me, I will also have that conversation. So if they want to ask questions about it, I will also tell them that information as well. Yes. I know that a lot of the faculty have gotten used to that. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
We have so many documents way more than we process in the fall. And so if you're on the wait list,
yeah. Yes. Yes. It's a great point. Yeah, I think if I remember right, for spring, I think I rolled over 15 students. And we processed, I think, almost 60 documents. So we got through a lot of them, but there were a lot of students who had to get pushed over. So obviously, yeah, you got to hit that deadline, and if earlier, the better on that. And a lot of your faculty know that. I've had this conversation with a lot of faculty. So I mean, if you have a faculty member who gives you pushback on that or wants to ask questions, obviously my door is always open for that. For that conversation, but a lot of them already hopefully do know that, and if they don't, yes, tell them that or send them my way, and we'll get them through there. Because ideally, as Don mentioned, spring especially, we're doing this kind of the fall group was a little smaller, but yeah, the spring group especially tends to get really, really large, and it's only going to get bigger. So yeah, make sure you hit that deadline because you don't want to be on that wait list come April, especially toward the bottom. And the later we push in the semester, the harder it gets to have that turnaround time. Does that make sense for everybody? Does anybody have questions for that? Yeah. Okay. Oh. What are you talking about? Your candidacy form comes in early on in November. If you're defending in the spring, all of your documents will come in the spring. Are you going to defend around spring break? Are you worried you're going to defend after that deadline on the 17th or on the hard deadline? If you can't turn in your paper for review until you've completed your defense, I won't look at it. If you need help with it, or I have writing coaches available, or if you have an issue with it, obviously we'll work through any writing challenges, but I can't officially review it until you've passed your defense. So it's a necessary step. So if you are defending after the deadline, that automatically puts you either on the wait list or into summer. And we can massage and figure out where you fall on that list, whether that's the wait list. And I have one more thing I'll talk to you about as far as what happens if you do roll over into summer. There's a couple of lanes there, but yeah, if you have the defense has to be completed before the document can come in. Otherwise, we can't look at it officially, if that makes sense. So we'll do reviews, we will do pieces of it. So I don't want you to say that I won't read a document, I just can't review it officially. So until you finish your defense. I believe it's the 15th of March. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's the 5th. I wrote it down. Yes, it's the 15th. So does anyone have any questions about the wait list? Yeah.
So, what's that?
Yeah. Okay, it's an excellent question. So the question there is, if you do miss the deadline and you are on the wait list and you do happen to find yourself pushed to, excuse me, whatever the next semester is, in this case, it would be spring of next year. Is it just a paperwork thing, or are there other implications there? So as far as the graduation application, that will roll over. I think it'll roll over twice, won't it? Okay, so it'll roll over. So that will roll over. So you do not have to reapply to graduate with the registrar if you're in that boat. There are a couple of different lanes as far as students who miss that deadline. If you miss the deadline and get your paper into me, say a couple weeks late, and you're on the wait list and get pushed, we have what's called an enrollment waiver. So we can offer you, if all your documentation is in and all you're waiting for is the review process, then we can grant you an enrollment waiver for the following semester to finish that up, which means you wouldn't have to enroll another credit. If you are late, say you defend super late and you don't meet that deadline and it does carry over into the next semester, then you would have to enroll at least one more. You would have to enroll in at least one credit. If say you defended late and you were still working on your paper into the next semester. Yeah.
You're not using they are all graded high.
Yeah, in progress. Yeah. So in theory, though, when we talk about it, I mean, for those that miss the deadline by a little bit, that's where the wait list really comes in. If you know you're not going to, say you're going to defend a month late, and you know the wait list really isn't a possibility just because of where we're at, but you still don't want, and you're going to carry over, but you don't want to have to pay for another credit. As long as your thesis or dissertation comes into my office with the appropriate paperwork by the last day of the semester, which I believe for the spring is the 8th of May, then you can still qualify for the enrollment waiver, even if you're not on the wait list. So you should still shoot for that as long as it's completed in it. Yep. If it's completed in that semester and you have everything in, then we can roll you over and grant you the waiver. If we have everything, you wouldn't have to roll in another credit that following semester, no. So we try to give students that landing spot. So just in that case, if you are on the wait list, if you find yourself in that situation, and sometimes that's, that happens, research gets put back, something needs to be adjusted. Your committee wants to push things back or wants to make adjustments to things. We try to give you as soft as landing spot as possible within the framework of how we can do things. We have a few tools to do that. And it's my job here to try to manage and kind of push you into the landing spot that works best for you. Now I'm always going to try to get you out when you would like to graduate. Then if we run into challenges, we can make some adjustments and use the tools in the toolbox to do that. But ideally that just makes it cleaner so that we're not wondering, am I going to make it, am I not? Which is where we found ourselves a few years ago. So it's easier to have the hard cutoff, if that makes sense. All right, any questions so far? I know this is a lot of information. Hopefully this is making sense though. Okay. So the last piece of the puzzle now, we're up to the point where you have submitted your document to my office and it's my turn to do my part in the review process. And then you have to wait patiently, so to speak. So again, I'll look at those documents as they come in, and what I'm looking for when I read documents, again, I'm not going through them line by line. I'm not editing and catching every comma or period. I'm not going through and double checking all your content, for equations and all that stuff. What I'm looking for, one, is it readable? It needs to be readable, and I can kind of follow the language. All the references need to be in the right spot. So what I'll do is I will double check to make sure you don't have a rogue reference in your text that's not in the references and vice versa, just so that we don't have any problems there. I will make sure those match up. And then we also go through and make sure all your formatting is correct. And this is where that checklist will come in. If you've checked off on that checklist, more than likely when you get your document back from me, it's not going to have too many notes on it as far as that goes. But we're going to look for those things like page numbers, and captions, and margins, and font, and style, and that you have all the pages in the correct order and in the correct spot. All of those things, if we find something out of whack with a document, I will review it. I'll kick it back to you with notes and say, hey, this is almost there, but I need you to change these things, if that makes sense. And then it'll be your job to make sure you change those issues with the document and then resubmit it to the graduate college. And again, you'll see here, there's the required fields, and then here's the revised document. So when you get to that point, that list is a lot less intuitive, but it's the same list, but what it does is it replaces your document that's already in the queue that I looked at, replaces it with the new ones that I know you've made changes. And then it tells me this is a new document, if that makes sense. That process, I say if the papers come in on the 3rd, it's my job then to review them and kick them back out to you, because that revised document needs to come in, I believe, by the 8th of December for you fall graduates. So, and it's on me. That's my job then to make sure I get it reviewed and get it kicked back to you in time to make those changes. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a lot of hurry up and wait when we get to that point. And obviously I'll be available for questions. So I know that tends to be the most nervous time, because you've completed all your documents and you have everything in and you're kind of waiting. So I'll try to minimize that wait as much as possible. Yeah, Don. Of course I am. Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. We do check all of our documents for plagiarism as well. Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues with that, but keep that in mind that I will do the plagiarism check. If for some reason it pops or flashes that this is an issue, then I will raise that flag and send it to the appropriate people to deal with. For sure, yes.
I don't, but
No, it's fine.
Is there specific formats that are thesis or dissertation needs to upload it?
Yes. Well, you can upload the ProQuest automatically transfers PDF. So as far as that goes, generally the first version can be a PDF, because that's what I use to mark them on my iPad. When we get to the revised upload, I may ask you to upload a Word document as well, so that if we need to change formatting, we can play with it. But generally PDF is fine. And if you do submit a Word document, I believe ProQuest just changes it automatically. So And sometimes we get documents that get converted that look funky. So, I mean, you may get a document back from me that says, hey, change all this. And you go, wait a minute, that's not as pretty as it was before. And we'll work through those issues. But generally PDF is the best. Yes, of course, I'm getting there. Yes. So, all such great questions. It's like I planted them in the audience. It's great. And that's not where I want to go. All right, so we've talked about forms, which is everyone's favorite topic on a Monday afternoon. Now let's talk about Word templates. So there's a couple different things on this little grid here that we'll go into. Again, there's the formatting requirements that kind of go along with the checklist I showed you. And then there's also the thesis and dissertation template. And basically, all documents that need to come in, and there's a couple different forms there. Obviously, we have a Word version, a LaTeX version, and a Google Doc version. But so depending on which one you're using, you do have the option to use any of the three. But whatever you choose, it needs to have this template formatting applied to it. I haven't worked as much. The LaTeX template, I think, is something that I will continue to learn as we go. The Word Google Docs, we can definitely help you work through that if you have issues applying that to your document. My advice on that is not necessarily to write your document and convert it. I would add the template to whatever version you're working with so that it's already in place as you go. If there's any issues with that, obviously let us know that there's issues. That's kind of what I'm here for. I have 2 writing coaches that can help you with stuff as well. So we can help iron out those issues if you find them as you go. But all of the theses and dissertations that come in have to be in this template so that they all look uniform. Within the bounds of whichever, I mean, some disciplines prefer LaTeX and some prefer Word. So, I mean, there are some differences there, but within that group though, yes, the template is required. If I get a document that's not in the template, that is single spaced and all bunched together, I'm going to send it back. So I'll do it with a nicer note, but I'll just say, hey, this needs formatted. Can you please attach the template to this? And I'll put it back on the student to fix that issue, so that it's workable. Because I don't, in the grand scheme of things, as I'm working through documents, it's easier for me to send it back and have you fix it than to take the time to try to apply the template on my end, if that makes sense to students. Plus, yeah, I think, it's a responsibility of the student to take care of that, but that's a great question. Any other questions about processes? Have I scared anyone? Is anyone more nervous than when I started? No, it's okay if you are, that's fine. Yes. And that is my segue there to let you know that, I mean, all of this stuff is on the website. It's all there for you to access. We hopefully do a good job of telling you when stuff is due, what form to use, what template to put it in, and all the processes we need to do to get you from that first form to the stage. But just know at any point you're not alone in that. You don't have to muddle through there and figure that on your own. That is my job, to help you through that process. So if you get to the point where you don't understand, is this form applicable to me? What does this deadline mean? I'm having trouble attaching the template. Those are all things you call, you email, you pop into my office and say, hey, Wayne, I'm having trouble with this. Can you assist me? And we'll iron all those issues out. I will throw out the pitch there. Obviously, the earlier you come in, the better, as far as deadlines go, as we pointed out. But we are there to help you, support you. Please don't get stuck in the weeds of which form goes where and lose valuable time with your research, your writing, because that is what we are here to help you through. And I know all of you are very smart. All of you are working on a lot of stuff. A lot of you can probably intuitively figure this out from the website, but no question is too big or too small, or we handle a lot of questions. Some of them that may seem simple when you get the answer, but to someone who is trying to defend and write a very large document and plan graduation and plan all that stuff, you have a lot enough on your plate that even if your question has a simple answer, which a lot of them do, when a student come in with, okay, we are here to help reduce that stress level so you can focus on those other things. And that is what we like to do. We like to serve students. And it also helps us on the back end, because I say that really does, for students who are in this group, that do follow all the requirements, get all the forms in. Obviously, those students are easier to take care of in the grand scheme of things because it's a lot less legwork when a document comes in. So if there's things here or there, I say we'll help with stuff. I don't expect any of you to be perfect per se, because I know I'm not perfect on the grand scheme of things, but working together within this process, then hopefully we'll help you get to the end goal, which is graduation when on your schedule. Are there any questions about? Okay. Well, that is great. So this is Thesis Academy number 1. So we have 3 more sessions scheduled for the rest of this semester as we're fleshing out this new program. Session number 2 is going to happen next week on Tuesday, and that is our roundtable discussion with our faculty about how we prepare for oral defense. So especially for those of you who are planning on defending this semester, or even in the spring, and we'll run a lot of stuff again in the spring, but it's a very good effort or workshop to come to, because not only will you get valuable insight from faculty members who have ran committees, who have dealt with students, who've also completed as a student, and can understand both sides of that aisle, but also get your chance to ask questions of them. So if there's something you're super nervous about, if there's something you're not quite sure what to put in or what not, how to prepare, what kind of presentation to put together, tips on how to calm your nerves, really anything you want to ask that panel, as you know, how did this work for you? How does this work in your department? Give me some guidance on how I can use these tips in my work. It's a valuable resource for an hour. So I really encourage all of you to come attend that session as well. That'll be next week on Tuesday. We'll have a grad write session coming up in October. So for those of you who are then maybe have passed your defense and need a little extra to make those changes, or you still work on your document, we'll have a Saturday where you can come and write for 5 or 6 hours. I'll be on hand. We'll have a coach on hand. You can work through any issues you may be having with your actual document yourself. I believe we will have snacks and food. We'll feed you, yeah. But that'll be on the last Saturday in October, which I believe is the 28th. And we'll get emails out for all of this as well. So please don't feel like you have to remember every last date. But so we'll do that at the end of October before the deadline. So you can get any last minute writing things you need to get done. And then after the deadline, we'll have a session that I like to call, I just submitted my document. Now what do I do? Because as I kind of hit on it a little bit, there is that waiting period in the meantime. And we'll have a session as to how that works. I'll go in a little more depth as to how that works through ProQuest. I'll kind of give you an idea of where you are kind of at the queue, so you can kind of manage those, so you kind of have an idea of where the timelines are, so that you're not just waiting in the ether. And hopefully that'll help reduce stress levels, because I know we had not done that in the past for students who, need to know, where am I at? What am I doing? How am I at? Where, how's it going? And we'll create some systems and talk about how that works with students, which should get us through the semester and get us into graduation, especially for those of you who are looking to walk across that stage. And then, yeah, that is the goal for Thesis Academy, obviously, is to take you through start to finish. So hopefully today's session helped you out quite a bit. I will hang out. We have the room until 2:30. I'll hang out till 2:30. Go ahead. Do you have a question? Oh, no. We have a sign-up sheet in the back. If you have not signed up, please let me know you were here so that I can make that knowledge. Yes, Don. Yes, ma'am. So the question that Don has asked is, what happens if I want to have a defense, but it's sooner than 2 weeks? Do I still have to fill out that form? The answer is yes. You always have to fill out the form, no matter whether you're 2 months out or you're 2 days out. Now, the graduate college requirement is 2 weeks before. So if you submit a defense notification 2 days before, we have worked with students in the past, but there's also a real possibility that if there is any issue or any problem with that, we will tell you no. We will ask you to reschedule that for a later date, just because there's not enough time to process, there's not enough time to publicize, and we really try to follow policy as much as possible. So I'll always fill out that form. Even if it's within 2 weeks, fill it out. If there's issues, you can always contact me and let me know, and I can tell you realistically if that will work or not. Again, chances are if it's a couple days before, it's not going to be a go. If you get it in a day late, we could probably work through some issues. But Always make sure that form comes in, because they say if we get a defense form, like if somebody gives me a defense approval form, then I have no idea it's coming, which hasn't happened in a while, knock on wood. But if you haven't filled out that notification, then if there's any issue with that document, you could end up having to redefend, which we do not want. So make sure you follow those steps, make sure that form comes in, give us that 2 weeks notice, and make sure you pass that on to your administrators and to your faculty as well, because we have moved beyond the days where you could just throw that in at the last minute and push it through. We really need that time to be able to get through everybody with the amount of programs we have. So make sure that word gets out to everyone, that it really does need to be 2 weeks before, and that form is always required. So, good question. Yeah. All right. I will hang out for a little bit. If you want to talk to me one-on-one or have any questions of me, that's great. I think Chris is here a minute. If you have any questions about the AAC or the supervisory forum or that, he's willing to talk to you for a few minutes. If not, I hope to see you guys at How to Wow next week. And if there are any questions or comments, let me know. My office is in 117. You can always email me or drop by. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it.